So as I already mentioned, of course, maybe some of you are a bit wondering, why is this retailer in this technology business as well? So that's one of the questions that I hope that we can answer for you before you leave today. This is sort of more of a presentation from you. I hope that if you walk away that you have a bit better idea what Amazon has done in the past years, Amazon Web Services, and that you also have an idea what are the key differentiators. What sets Amazon Web Services aside from other cloud providers. And that we have a bit of an idea where are the things that we are focusing on. So that's the meat of my morning presentation, and I hope that you will stick around for the presentation later this afternoon where I'll put on my other hat and where I'll talk about how Amazon.com as a customer of Amazon Web Services has been building pretty new technologies and really thinking about how to use these services in a different way. So without much ado, Amazon the retailer, you hopefully know Amazon the retailer. I mean, you may even know the second business that Amazon is in, which is in the seller business, as we call it. Yeah? Maybe you've shopped on Amazon.com and you've seen that third parties sell their products there as well. But what's also part of that business is that we actually have an enterprise services platform, where some of the other world's largest e-commerce operations run on. For example, Target.com used to run on there, and then we have Marks & Spencer runs on there, Timex, Mothercare, a whole range of very large e-commerce operations run on that platform. So as you can imagine, the technologies that we needed to develop for that platform are unique, because there is no other system out there that actually requires the scale of Amazon. Maybe you'll think about other, maybe internet companies that are also substantially large, but none of them have the complexity inside of Amazon. There is not an enterprise architecture pattern that you won't find back within Amazon. Yeah, it does high performance transaction process. It does high performance websites. It does search. It does fulfillment. It drives fulfillment centers. It does so many different things. That there's lots of, for example, lots of advanced AI techniques being used. All of this needs to be running at scale. And so Amazon engineers became true experts at scale, and we had developed really unique technologies for that. And when in 2004 we opened up the Amazon catalog for others to use, we saw a whole range of new businesses came into existence that were using our catalog and building very surprising, completely new style of applications. But what we also saw that those businesses, if they became popular, really had trouble scaling, because they did not have access to an infinite capacity at very low cost. Yeah? Once these companies became popular, they all required significant capital to be able to grow. And so that drove us to actually start releasing technologies that we had developed internally to the outside world as well, just to help businesses grow. And so this is the mission of the Amazon Web Services, to enable businesses and developers to use web services, what we know now as the cloud, to build scalable, sophisticated applications. And that was really the start of what we now know as the cloud. We launched first with Amazon S3 in 2006, and later in that year the Amazon EC2 Compute Cloud. And pretty soon, after the launch of EC2, we saw a shift in sort of the style of companies that was using us. Where maybe in the earlier days, many of our early adopters were younger businesses, those that were building innovative new applications. Pretty soon after the launch of EC2, enterprises started to realize that this was way too good a deal for them as well, and that this could shift tremendously the way that they could deliver value to their customers as well. Many business units are driven these days by much faster time to market. There is and many of them see their IT department, the interaction with their IT department like this, where they really see the IT department as a blocker in their way to really build new products and get to market faster. The old style of IT has forced IT departments to limit choice, to make very long-term contracts with single providers. Not because these guys, not because the IT department is bad, no, not at all, but it's kind of the impact of a very long-term focus on driving costs down using old-style techniques. Yeah, and so IT is in many organizations seen as the blocker, and we hear this new term arising, which is stealth cloud. That are actually the business units going out to acquire cloud resources. And whether that is low-level services or whether that's high-level software as a service applications, that doesn't really matter. The thing is that the new group of leaders that is coming into the enterprise requires a different way of software delivery to them. They want to be in charge, because that's how they've grown up. They are in charge as consumers of the way that software is being delivered to them. And in the enterprise, they no longer have that control. So you see a tremendous shift there. And so cloud helps them with in a number of ways. These are sort of, let me reiterate sort of the basic advantages that cloud gives you. Yeah, so no upfront capital, that's an obvious one. Yeah, you no longer have to go to the bank or to the VC or to your financial director within your organization to actually get capital to acquire resources. And as such, there is also not a 6-month wait time before you actually get access to your resources. Yeah? You only pay for what you use, and you can get access to these resources on a minute's notice. Yeah? Or if you look at storage, you can get it immediately. Yeah? Getting to EC2, launching a new server, is pushing a button. And then within minutes, you'll have a new server running, or 10 servers, or 100 servers. You can get access to all the capacity that you need immediately. A very different story from the old-style procurement world, where actually often, access to resources is measured in weeks, if not months. Pricing is variable, which means that we really drive the cost down. If you're able to be elastic, to build your system in such a way that it doesn't only grow, but also can shrink, your operational costs can be driven down as well. And it's not that Amazon Web Services only offers you things that can scale horizontally. It actually offers a whole range of resources that can also grow up. So if you need more memory, if you need more CPUs, those are instance types that are available for you as well. You only pay for what you use. It becomes a true utility. Yeah? Our goal is to drive towards a world where you will no longer think about servers and storage and databases and networks and email services and all these kind of things, but that you consider it just like another utility, just like water or just like electricity. That all of those are available to you in any capacity that you want. It needs to be just like electricity, available to you without having to call the electricity company first. Yeah, it needs to be completely self-service. And more importantly, these resources need to be completely automatable. Yeah? Old-style hardware, databases, storage, network-attached storage, network-attached storage systems, all are physical building blocks where you actually have to interact with. Yeah? We have made all of these things, like storage, like compute, like databases, they are suddenly completely programmable. Yeah? You can start, stop them, grow them, shrink them, make backups of them, things like that, without ever having to touch a physical device again. All of this is virtual, and all of this is completely automatable, which means that you can have either business rules or you can have technology rules, deciding when to start, when to stop, when to back up, and all these kind of things, without ever having to touch a piece of physical hardware again. Scaling up, scaling down, really important, and you should be able to do that at a minute's notice. So it means that you can not only grow very fast, rapidly, but more importantly, you can also scale down. Yeah, scale down, not use the resources if you do not need to use them, is extremely important, because that is where your major cost savings are going to come from. Yeah, and the last piece is that all of this, many of our customers, although most of these pieces before this, all talk about money. And cost is important for everyone. I'm pretty sure that 10 years from now, if you will be our customer, you will not say, oh, I love Amazon Web Services, I wish they were a bit more expensive. Yeah, that's not going to happen. So cost is important. Also often brings many of our enterprise customers on board in the first place. But all of them will claim that actually improving agility and compressing time to market are the reasons why they stay in the cloud. Yeah, because it allows you to no longer have to think about resources. Suddenly you're unconstrained. If you want to, as a business unit, go build a new product, go want to experiment, yeah, then you can immediately do so without having to think about what are actually the resources required for this. An example, for example, is in the media space. Many newspapers these days, yeah, all are looking for new ways to monetize their content. And so they want to experiment. They want to experiment in new ways in delivering content to their customers and merging that maybe with other activities. Now, I just saw an example from the Daily Telegraph in the UK. They are taking all the fashion content, real-time fashion content as it comes from their newsroom, put it into a website, merge that with real-time e-commerce activities. And so you see this actress walking in this dress and you want to buy that at this moment, you can do so. Yeah? So this is an experiment they run. If this doesn't work, 6 months from now, they'll pull the plug and it's not the resources that's going to be what bothered them. Yeah? And so it allows you to experiment and take your products in new directions that you've not seen before. I think this is sort of a mandatory slide that I just want to put up. We just talked about the whole range of advantages. And you know, on-premise virtualization is often mentioned as a sort of alternative for the cloud. And while I think that virtualization is an extremely important technique, if you are running your own data sets, if you are running on-premise capacity and you're not using virtualization yet, you certainly should do so. Yeah? It also makes for a very good stepping stone into the cloud. But you have to remember that on-premise virtualization does not give you any of the benefits of the cloud. And while it's a good approach to take, you have to realize it is not a substitute for cloud. You still have to put up all the capital. There is no reduction in your operational cost. You still are responsible for maintenance. You still have to manage the security of it at low level. There is the fault tolerance. If you want to really build highly available applications in that world, you may have to manage multiple data centers. All of that stuff disappears if you go to the cloud. But with on-premise virtualization, you are still stuck with the old way of doing things. Now, so our goal really, and I know that we've achieved this because you have many enterprises that are our customers right now, where we all see that their business units are now seeing IT as an enabler. They see IT as a partner of them that actually helps them select the right DR strategy to take, for example. Yeah? DR in the old world of our IT was something that you had one strategy for the whole company. And whether there was a business unit that required 0 minutes downtime, or whether there was a business unit that even if they would disappear for a week, nobody would ever notice. Yeah? You have a different DR strategy for each of those. And so we see that IT becomes a partner and an enabler instead of the blocker. Hundreds of thousands of businesses, 190 countries. Imagine this, hundreds of thousands of businesses are using the Amazon cloud at this moment. Yeah? In turn, they have millions and millions and millions of customers. Yeah? And there may be many products that you are using today on a daily basis for which you may not even know that they are powered by the Amazon Web Services at this moment. Yeah, so for that, there's many of our customers in the Asia-Pacific region as well, many here in India. And so quite often when we look at these, you think, yeah, but they're all younger businesses and they've all started building their own software and things like that. That's one of those myths. Yeah, because I take an example of Advanced Innovations. They're a global supply chain company. They have a traditional enterprise architecture. Yeah, technology layer at the bottom. They have some bespoke and Oracle services on top of that. People services on top of that again, and then some presentation layer. Yeah, traditional enterprise architecture. 100% built out of off-the-shelf components from Oracle and Microsoft. Yeah, running 100% on the AWS cloud. And they even have taken a step further. They are serving their American customers out of the US. They're serving the European customers out of the EU region. And they're serving the Asia customers out of the APAC region. And then for each of those regions, they are backing up into another region. So that if ever they would lose, for example, the whole Dublin or the whole European region, they could restart their operation for the European customers immediately from the US region. And so they do this by using standard off-the-shelf technologies, in this case, a data card from Oracle, to actually make these backups into the other regions and for them to be able to restart immediately. Yeah? You can build highly available, scalable applications using off-the-shelf components on top of the AWS cloud, completely supported by those vendors. New York Times, other example that I like to use. In 2009, only a small sliver of the New York Times was using the Amazon Web Services. Now, about 40% of their data center capacity comes out of the Amazon Web Services. Yeah? More importantly, only 25% of their cost is related to Amazon EC2. Another large enterprise customer of ours, in this case, I'm not using them as a vendor or as a partner of ours, but purely as a customer. SAP, as you can see, their usage is substantial, their internal usage. And they use it for a whole range of services. They use it for training, they use it for dev and test, and they develop a whole range of new services for their customers to use on top of the platform as well. The one I want to point you to is there's a new service that they've launched. It's called SAP Carbon Impact On Demand. If you're already an SAP user, you can connect your ERP system with this service that they're delivering, and they will calculate the carbon impact of your operations. It's a tremendous, exciting service. Also uses business object, gives you great graphs and reports, and it's something that is substantially different from what SAP has done in the past, because this is completely delivered as a service on top of the AWS resources. This is also a slide that the SAP folks gave me. This is something how they talk to their customers about the cloud. Yeah, so normally the yellow stepping stone blocks that you see here is if you have a moderately sized ERP system that you need to host yourself. And those are the kind of normal stepping stones that you have to take. You have to buy hardware ahead of when you need the capacity. But if you do not need to bring your ERP system for full 24 hours a day, you can see that with 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, you can get your cost down on AWS to about 15%. Or if you do run it 24/7, 365 days a year, then you can actually get your cost down to about 50% of what you would need to do if you would need to buy hardware. These are numbers given us by SAP themselves. And while most enterprises will indeed have a cost story, I think this example from the NASDAQ is a good one to show that actually also time to market. That is really important for enterprises. The NASDAQ, the data group of the NASDAQ are responsible for storing all of the archival data that comes from the exchanges. And they wanted to build a new application for their customers, so that customers could interactively do research on this data, on this historical data. For that, they actually had to revamp their whole enterprise backend to be able to allow this kind of access to this data. And that would have been a project that would probably cost tens of millions of dollars, run for 2 years, and be very doubtful whether it would be successful in the end. Plus that they didn't really know whether there was a true market for this product. Nobody else had this product, and they really wanted to deliver it quickly in the hands of their customers. They took a very simple approach. Yeah? And what they did is they take the whole fire hose that comes from the exchanges, and they not only put it in their archival system, but also dump all of that data in very simple text files, per ticker symbol, per 10 minutes, and put that in Amazon S3, the simple storage service. Then they've built an application that runs on their customers' desktops, an Air application, that connects back to Amazon S3, gives them securely immediate access to the data that they're accessing, and now they have this whole interesting environment where customers can do their own research. It turns out that this is a successful application for them. It's something that you can download from data.nasdaq.com. But if this would not have been successful, they would have been out of pocket about $50,000 for actually building the application, and $500 at Amazon. So this means that the risk of experimentation, the risk of developing new products, is completely being minimized. If this would not have been a successful product, they would actually have only suffered only minor losses in compared to what he otherwise would have done. Lots of Indian customers actually, NDTV, very fortunate to have them today on stage as well, streaming much of their content from AWS. Tata Sky, another well-known company, I believe, here in India. They have all their customer-facing websites as well as their customer service portals and a number of other business mission-critical applications running on top of AWS. And just to stay in the sort of entertainment sector, Hungama was actually one of the earliest adopters of the Amazon Web Services here in India. And they have managed their growth completely on top of AWS. And they've been able to go into all sorts of new businesses, for example, gaming, purely because they knew they had unlimited resources and capacity at their hands using the Amazon Web Services. So I'll just quickly go through the building blocks. You'll find much more interesting things later on in the other presentations about the technology side of things. So more importantly, at the basics, there are sort of the standard big components, compute, storage, databases, network. But on top of that sits a whole range of other services. We have more than 20 services at this moment, and we continue to roll out more, and to continue to roll out more features with each of those services as well. In the trivia questions earlier today, we already talked about how many regions there are. There are now there are 6 general public regions around the world, and there's one new region which we launched in the US that is specifically for government applications. Each of those regions is built out of what we call multiple availability zones. An availability zone means it's a separate building, it sits in separate flood zones, it's in seismographic stable areas, it's connected to separate power grids, and it's connected to multiple tier 1 redundant networks. This means that you can build highly available applications in a way that you would never be able to do in a single data center. You have a whole range of failure scenarios that you can cover by simply using these multiple availability zones. Many of our customers have been able to do so. For example, after the horrible earthquake earlier in the year in Japan, many of our Japanese customers have started to use the multiple availability zones to build highly available applications and then back up those applications into the Singapore region, such that if there would ever be a really major disaster in the Tokyo area, they will be able to restart their business from Singapore. So these availability zones are things that come for free. Yeah. Where in the past, if you would need multiple data centers, you have to go through tremendous negotiations with multiple providers to actually get this done. Much more important, if you would want to launch your application in Europe, you no longer have to start negotiating with data center providers in Europe to give you capacity. You can just use the same services in Europe that you also have available, for example, in the APAC Singapore region. And this is really important because many Indian companies are not only targeting the Indian market, they are targeting the worldwide market. And they're using the Amazon Web Services to deliver their products worldwide in a sort of uniform way. Once you've developed an application for one region, you can just lift and shift it over to another region, do some configuration, and have it running there as well. Many ask about the growth. So this is sort of the growth in the past years. I guess something's going on here. So what you miss here is actually the bottom of the screen, which is the dates. So it's Q4 of each year when we've measured these objects. These are billions of objects in Amazon S3.
Okay, cool.
What's more important than the absolute numbers is actually sort of the growth curve that you're seeing. That is way more important. It's more than doubling each year. And when we measured, this is the end of each year. But when we measured it at the end of the third quarter of this year, we already had hit 566,000 objects, 566 billion objects in Amazon S3. This means that we already have seen more than doubling this year, and we still have a quarter to go. If we look at sort of what is it actually that drives this growth? I think there are 3 unique things that sets Amazon aside from any other company. Flexibility is one thing, lowering cost, and innovation. And each of those things I'll touch upon. Yeah, if we look at flexibility, and I'm going to make a very important point here. Yeah? At Amazon, we've been using enterprise-style software from the earlier days. Yeah, we hardly use anything like that anymore these days, but we are very well aware of how the old style of IT works. Yeah, where you are being locked in to using single software providers, because that was the only way that you were able to drive your costs down. We all know about the sort of the enterprise software cost rate card. Yeah? We all know what that costs. We also know that nobody pays those costs. It's all a negotiation how long you're willing to lock yourself in. Yeah? So you reduce to one single provider often. Yeah? And you're really being absolutely locked into both on the financial level as well as the technology level. Because after 5 years of using that piece of software, the cost of switching to another software package is huge. Yeah? We fundamentally believe that that world should be broken through. It should be different. You, as customers, should be completely in control of the choices of software and service providers that you make. Just as like that at the Amazon retail business, where you, if you no longer like the services that Amazon delivers there, you should be able to go to a different e-commerce provider. In this infrastructure business, it should be the same. If you no longer think that the services that Amazon delivers are the services that you need or that they're at a level that you require, you should be able to walk away at any time. You should not be locked in to using any service provider. And so this is a very fundamental piece of the Amazon philosophy around cloud. Yeah? So we do not lock you in on a business level because there are no upfront commitments by you. Yeah, if you want to walk away, you can do that at any time. And this is really important. But we also don't want to lock you in at any technology level. Yeah, so for example, any of the operating systems that you see here, you can use. Any operating system, any programming language, any middleware. Yeah, all supported by the original vendors on our platform. And it's also that, we have a wealth of ISVs as well as system integrators that are all working with us, delivering all of their services on top of our platform. And I've just picked out just two of the larger enterprise software vendors, Oracle and SAP, certified all of their software for production on top of the AWS platform. Which means that if you want to have support from Oracle or SAP for running an ERP system or the e-business suite on AWS, these companies will give you support for that. A second point, which is extremely important and core to the Amazon philosophy, is that we will continuously lower our cost. We have done so already more than 15 times since our launch. Yeah. Why do we do that? Because we believe that we should hand you back some of the, if you help us achieve additional economies of scale, yeah, instead of pocketing those benefits, we should give you that money back by lowering your cost. Yeah, we know that for everyone who is considering cloud services, the cost of infrastructure is important. So for that, we should help you drive the cost down, make you more efficient so that you can be more successful in the long run. Yeah? We really feel that we are partnering there with you, helping you drive your costs down. It's really important to us. And we do that by actually giving you multiple tools. One of them is different pricing models. On one hand, the obvious one is the on-demand instance, where you really pay on an hourly basis. You just have to go to the website and you'll see exactly what you'll have to pay on an hourly basis, or per gigabyte, or per network traffic. Some of our customers said, well, it's all fun, that on-demand instances, but I run 24/7. Yeah? So I don't have any big benefits out of on-demand. So we introduced a reserved instances model, where in exchange for an upfront commitment, actually we are driving the cost down to about 40 or 50%, depending on how long you're willing to make that commitment. And then also at the same time, we launched another instance pricing model, which is spot instances. And this is a really important tool for customers to even drive that cost down further. Spot instance means that you get to set the price that you're willing to pay. We maintain a market price. That market price drops below your price, we'll run your job for you. This is great for those jobs that are not time critical. A good example here is Hungama, for example, that is doing all of the transcoding of all of their media content using the spot market. They have a big queue, an SQS queue. They put all the work in that queue. Then they bid on the spot market. And when the market drops below the price that they're willing to pay, these instances get run. They pick work off the queue, do the work, put the results in Amazon S3, and everything works well. Many of our customers that are using the spot market, they're having very advanced bidding strategies, and they're easily able to drive the cost down to about 25% of what they would be having to spend if they would be using on-demand instances. It's a very important tool in the hands of our customers if they can time shift their jobs to get that done. I see very interesting bidding strategies, yeah, where you have the data already on Monday, but you need to deliver this report on Friday. Yeah, so customers will are willing to pay 1 cent on Monday and then actually increase the bidding price during the week when the urgency of actually generating the report increases. And if they haven't run it at the end of the week, they'll just use an on-demand instance to create it. But there's great advantages for many of our customers using spot instance. And we also deliver many new technologies. Yeah, so customers have asked us, for example, whether we couldn't actually offer a lower cost storage service. Because this durability in Amazon S3, which is 11/9 of durability, is great. But we have to keep the original objects around anyway. For example, quite a few customers are doing video transcoding and then store all the results in S3, so they're able always to regenerate the object from the original one. So can't you deliver something with less durability, but also at lower cost? So we did some innovation there and delivered Amazon S3 reduced redundancy storage that stores objects at a much lower cost than S3 does. The third thing that sets Amazon as a provider aside is continuous innovation. And we talked about a little bit of this earlier already, yeah? That Amazon's core success is listening to its customers. And you'll see it, if you look at our roadmap, this is sort of the summary of what we've done in the past 5 years, that we've really delivered services at a very rapid pace and features in each of them rapidly as soon as they became available. If you look at, if you look at the 2011 timeline, that's not a summary. And you'll see there's many features that we've delivered in the past year. Sorry, the 2010 timeline, of course. Yeah? The only thing I can promise you for 2011 is that it will no longer fit on one slide. Yeah? Now, sometimes it looks a bit as if this release schedule is a little bit chaotic. It's hard to keep track of what is being delivered and when. The reason for that is that we allow each of our services to work very closely with their customers. And as soon as they have a feature ready that customers has asked them for, then they can immediately release this feature to their customers. Yeah, that's also something why sometimes you'll see new services or new features being rolled out in one region first, and then slowly, pretty quickly after that, be rolled out in other regions. It's more important for us to get features in the hands of customers as soon as possible, so they can start working with it, and we get feedback how we can improve that feature or how we can improve the service. Yeah, this key to Amazon's success really is listening to our customers. If you look at what you guys asked for in the past year, last year we also had this meeting here, and you gave us a lot of feedback what you felt is important. So, expanding the global footprint is something that is important to all of our customers, because many of our customers, also here Indian customers, are not only targeting the Indian market, they're targeting the global market, they're targeting Japan, they're targeting Europe. And so the global footprint is absolutely important. Low pricing, new pricing models. Well, let's look at some of those. Past 18 months, we released 4 new regions. 2 in Asia Pacific, 1 in the US West Coast, and then this new one which is specifically for governments. And also a whole range of new cloud front, which is the CDN, points of presence. Making it easier to use is something that is extremely important for us as well. Maybe in the beginning we really thought that if this was only a developer offering, then just APIs and forums would be good enough. But we clearly know that also for our enterprise customers, a broader offering of services that are simpler to use is really important as well. So CloudFormation, for example, was something that was launched such that you can start and stop collections of services that have dependencies on each other. The Amazon console, the AWS console, is an important tool for many of our customers. And again, we'll make sure that the AWS console over time has complete parity with the command line tools that are often launched at the beginning of each service. New instance types, a whole range have been delivered, and especially the cluster compute and GPU ones have been very successful. A few days ago, we launched the CC2, which is a new instance even of those cluster compute types, which has 2 times 8-core Xeon processors, and we built a very small cluster out of them, and we're able to get immediately number 42 on the top 500 supercomputer list. Imagine if we would put all of our resources against it. That would be a real success for our environment. So one specific thing that we've done in this cluster environment is actually build cluster nodes that have GPU boards. Many enterprises have always wanted to experiment with GPUs, not from maybe somewhat from a graphical processing standpoint, but also from a general purpose GPU programming, because these boards allow you to have very high core, small grain parallelism. So each of these boards has 512 cores, and so per node we have 2 of these NVIDIA boards, so you have more than 1,000 cores per board, per node that you can use. And this very fine-grained parallelism allows you to do very high-speed data analysis, for example. We also launched a whole range of new services in the past year. The DNS service is one example of it, simple email. We delivered all sorts of features going with RDS. I think RDS, so that's a relational database service. We delivered multi-AZ deployments where we built a specific synchronous replication protocols between AZs so that you can have highly available MySQL instances. And there's a whole range of other features around security, for example, as well. So for the coming year, actually, the priorities aren't going to be that much different, because these are the priorities that come from our point of view. We allow our customers to actually drive many of the other priorities. What do you want to see in S3? What do you want to see in the Elastic Load Balancer? Many of these. But before all of this, our really top priority for every year will be security and operational excellence. Security and operational excellence will be forever our #1 investment areas, because protecting our customers is the absolute most important task that we have. And we will not only continue to make major investment in the operational side of that, but we also will make major investments in delivering new types of security tools that you may not have seen anywhere else. So if we look at some of the enterprise features, I think Amazon Virtual Private Cloud is a very important tool for our customers. It allows you to cordon off a piece of the cloud, connect that piece back to your own data center, and then you assign your own addressing block to that, and then suddenly your own data center becomes elastic. You can breathe in and breathe out. You can put resources there, help and scale. It also makes it much easier often to transition applications into the cloud that may still have dependencies to databases or other services that are running on-premise. So this is so it allows you to cordon off a piece of Amazon, of the Amazon Web Service. But we delivered a second version of the Amazon Virtual Private Cloud that makes it even easier to start on. In the console, you just select a type of virtual private cloud that you want, and with one click, we instantiate this for you. And this new version gives you much finer grain control over the resources that you can put in the cloud. You can build private networks, public networks, you can build network address translation boxes there, you can have internet gateways, you can have ingress and egress rules. And on top of that, we gave you very tight security controls, and once you have established those rules, you make it explicit who is ever allowed to change those rules. So this is really locking down security at the networking level for you, so that you can build very advanced applications sitting in the cloud, but have complete control over the network and the access control there. And a good example here is, for example, Autodesk, that makes use of the Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, using their own addressing blocks, and as if it is part of their overall set of data centers that they're using. Direct Connect allows you to build connections directly into the Amazon data centers, directly into the Amazon regions. So if you require guaranteed latency, or if you require specifically allocated bandwidth, we work with a number of telecom providers to provide these resources to you so that you can build dedicated connections between on-premise and the cloud. Identity federation, another thing that we delivered in the past year that's important for enterprise customers. It allows you to build applications that can take your own your own identity systems and connect them with the Amazon identity and access management tools, so that you can have matching back and forth. And this federation allows you to actually better integrate your on-premise identity with identity used in the cloud. Not too fast, guys. VM import allows you to actually import VMware images into AWS. We'll create AMIs, the Amazon machine image, for that from you. And server-side encryption, another thing that we launched this year, important for those that actually have specific compliance requirements around server-side encryption. As I said earlier, security is important for us. Very important, actually, because protecting our customers is our utmost concern. And actually, I think that if any of you do business on the internet and you have not made security your #1 priority, you are putting your customers at risk. Yeah? Security should be your #1 concern, because there is no line in the sand with security. There is no stamp that you can give your system and say, okay, this is good enough security. Yeah? And then that will keep all the bad guys out. No. There is no line in the sand. Security needs to continuously evolve itself. And that's why we make security our absolutely #1 priority from an operational point of view as well as an innovation point of view. So there's two documents that you should read in this context. One of them is around risk and compliance, and the other one is the security tools that each of these services delivers to you. In the compliance document, there's 45 common questions around compliance that are being answered there. Please read the document if you're interested in those. And of course, we have a range of certifications around how we handle our data centers, the processes around that, and all the security tools in and around our services. SAS 70, we use the COVID set of controls. And recently we launched SSAA 16 and 3402, ISO 27001. Darn, difficult numbers. As of course, we're a PCI level 1 provider as well. The bottom three of these, where we say compliant platform, means that we have worked together with our customers that, for example, have to be HIPAA compliant. So HIPAA is the Healthcare Information Protection Act. It's one of the strictest acts when it comes to personal identifiable information. And we worked with our customers there so that they could get certified on top of our platform. Many of the steps that our customers have to take is sort of best practices around architecture. How they should think about how data flows and how personal identifiable information, for example, flows through their systems. Which pieces should they encrypt? Which is it that they don't have to encrypt? And there's a great document on the AWS website that is specific for HIPAA compliant customers. But actually, I suggest that everyone that's interested in how they could architect on the cloud and get certified, or how you manage sensitive information in the cloud, it's an excellent document to read in that settings. For example, and I'll talk more about it this afternoon when we talk about Amazon.com. So if you are a PCI compliant application running on top of this platform, there are certain data types and certain interactions that you will have to encrypt. Yeah? You have to encrypt them in traffic, in flight, as well as when you store them. At Amazon, we've made that much easier. We just decided at Amazon.com to encrypt all traffic and to encrypt all data that we store. Yeah? That makes it very simple when you have to think about how are you protecting your customers' information. You just protect it always. An important customer in the US is mentioned about that before, the US government. and when the US government will have put out a cloud-first strategy. That means that all agencies of the US government should consider cloud first before actually using resources in their own data centers. When they launched their first service on the cloud, they actually put out a press release. Yeah, and part of the press release there was that they actually had evaluated the Amazon Web Services and had found that we were giving them greater protection than what they would be able to build themselves. Well, that's a pretty solid supporting statement from an organization who really cares about security. And by now, we have more than 100 of these US agencies that are running on the Amazon cloud, and we see many other governments around the world starting to use cloud services or starting to build strategies that are incorporating cloud as a very important piece of how to able to reduce the cost of government operations and how to be able to deliver services for their citizens much faster. So I want to close off by talking a bit about 3 different trends that I see that have been enabled by cloud. The first one is, and we talked a bit about it before, is the consumerization of enterprise IT. With that I mean is that there is this young group of leaders coming into the enterprise that has had a very long relationship with software. Actually, they've grown up with software services. And especially the software services of the past, say, 4 or 5 years, especially around mobile devices, have meant that they have a very strong preference for applications that make their life easier. Yeah, they may have an application on their mobile phone, and they find another application that actually does things a little bit better than that one application, and then out goes the old one, in the new one, immediately. There is no loyalty towards software. They are really looking for those providers that are delivering the absolute best service for that one task they have to do at hand. So here we have a whole group of new leaders in the enterprise that are then confronted with old-style IT, where old-style IT was all about reduction of choice and exactly only be able to do those things that the vendor of the software has told you to do. Yeah? This is a complete change in how enterprises are going to deal with IT. Each business unit will want to be able to go out and acquire those services that they exactly need for that particular new product that they're going to deliver. Or those products that help them to become more efficient for the task they are at hand. And where the business unit A chooses these 5 services, business unit B may have very different priorities. And to make sure that all of these business units can be as effective as possible, we will see a new style of IT rising that helps actually delivering these services to these business units in a completely controlled way. Because the role of IT becomes managing the security of those services, evaluating those services, making sure they perform right, making sure those business units may have alternatives if they would want to switch services because the services do not deliver the value that they're looking for. Yeah? So this is a complete shift in role for IT. Big data is definitely probably a word these days that may even have more hype than that cloud has, but the two are intricately linked with each other. Yeah? Big data is a very new style in doing data analytics, where in the old days, data analytics was all about that on forehand you really knew what kind of questions you were going to ask. That drove the data model, and that again drove the way in which you were collecting your data. Big data is the inverse. With big data means you are going to collect as much data as possible. Yeah? And then based on the kind of questions that you iteratively are going to develop, you are going to change the way that you analyze the data. You are going to change the way that you lay data models over this data. And so on forehand, you do not know how much capacity you need for analyzing. You do not know what kind of capacity you need for storage. And as such, cloud and big data are very closely linked because cloud gives you this infinite capacity. Yeah? The capacity without any limits in each of the 5 steps of big data processing. Yeah? First, how do you collect the data? Then how do you store it? How do you organize it? How do you manage quality? Then how do you analyze it? And in the analyzing space, we've seen tens, if not hundreds of young businesses starting up that are doing all sorts of new style data analytics. Many of them based on Hadoop, and the service that Amazon delivers is Elastic MapReduce. But on top of that, they're building ways in which it makes it much easier to ask business-level questions and then map that down to the coarse-grained tools that Hadoop and MapReduce give you. And then in the end, of course, sharing the results is equally important. And the third one, and last one that I want to touch on, is multi-device and mobile development. Later on, Simone will talk more about good examples that we see here in and around India of mobile development on top of our platform. But what I want to touch on is that we see a whole range of these new connected devices arriving. Not only tablets, not only mobile phones, but your treadmill will be internet enabled. Your car will be internet enabled. All of them will have significant different capabilities. They'll have different form factors. But you want to develop applications that work in one, that you do not have to redevelop for each of these different platforms every time over and over again. So we see a whole range of new style of development happening where the core of these applications are being built in the cloud and presentation layers are being delivered to each of the different platforms. Which is really important because in the cloud there's this whole range of other services that many of the mobile developers want to use. Geolocation and geocontext. Not only where am I, but what's the weather like, what are the traffic conditions, all of these kind of things. Recommendation services, integration with social networks, high-speed transcoding services. All of those are available in the cloud as partners of AWS. And it makes it much more easier to use those services to develop a very high level, high quality, rich media experience to customers using those mobile devices. So those are just three areas where cloud is making significant impact. And our vision is that cloud will deliver these infrastructure pieces as if it is just a utility. Where you can start to completely focus for the full 100% focus on delivering value for your customers. Just like electricity. This is a picture from a brewery in Belgium. Yeah, where in the beginning of the last century, they needed a staff of 12 people to just keep the generator going such that they could brew beer. Yeah? As you can imagine, generating electricity has nothing to do with brewing beer. And so when public utilities came into effect, they couldn't quickly enough dump the generator and actually move the people that were working on the generator, move them into general staff so that they could actually start producing more beer and better beer. And they kept 2 people on staff to just manage how electricity was flowing into their brewery. So this is sort of the picture that we envision as well in maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years from now for compute, storage, databases. You will sit around a campfire, what is it, 25 years from now, we hear a granddaughter or grandma, and you'll talk to your children and say, do you remember when there still were physical servers? Oh, granddad, tell me about that. Yeah? And that's sort of, I mean, maybe we're lucky that we've grown up with physical servers. But we've also grown up with the pain of them. And what a nightmare it is to actually continue to manage them, because having to manage them means that you cannot focus on delivering value for your customers. And so you've put your best minds on delivering value. And that way we can create a whole range of new applications and new businesses that were just not possible before. Yeah? With that, if you want to reach me, this is yet another cloud service. Running on top of AWS, of course. This is my business card. Feel free to contact me if that's what you want to do. I'll see you later this afternoon. Thank you.